You're welcome to Film Motive. Okay, today I'll be giving us a tutorial on how to uh, arrange or write your script. And mind you, before we go further, a lot of person thinks when we talk about scripts, script is script, and you can use any script for anything. But then, all the scripts are not the same. We have script for movie, script for TV programs, and all the rest. But then, currently, what we'll be talking on is script for TV programs like podcasts and all the rest. You can use this script for podcasts, and you can also use it for your TV productions and all the rest. They have the same format. But then, you can't use script for film and use it for your TV programs, and you can't use script for TV programs and also use it for film. No, they have the different formats. Okay, so let's dive into what you have to do. Now, forget about the arrangements here. You can decide to arrange yours this way, but for the purpose of this class, I'll be arranging mine like this. And it's important, from the top you can see podcast script template, 60 minutes professional podcast. I had to put this because of for the sake of this tutorial. You may decide to do this in another format, but you're not going to call it a template. You understand? You can call it podcast script, 60 minutes professional podcast, and stop at that. You may not call it template, or you can call it just podcast script. Now, after that, you can go over to put podcast title. The podcast title, it can be a TV program title, is the name of the production, maybe the TV station, or the name of the production that is doing the podcast or whatever. So mine is Filmotive, for example. And after that, you put the topic of discussion, because the different TV program or the different podcasts will have their own different topic. So topic, we have here skill up, and again we have the duration. How long will this production going to last? We have 60 minutes, depending on the time you think it is going to last. Then you also need to indicate the name of the hosts and the name of the co-host if you have any co-host. You can also indicate the name of your guests. There can be more than one or two, depending on what you have available. So all of this will be arranged. The reason for all of this is so that anybody can pick up the script. The director can pick up the script. The guest or the host can pick up the script and know what to do and how to do it. They need to know the topic of the discussion. They need to know how many minutes it is going to last. Then the host need to know the guest, and the guest need to know the host too. Now, the host cannot be asking the guest, what's your name? You understand? He or she is supposed to know the name of the guest before time, even if the guest will still have to introduce his or herself. So let's dive into the script. So now you can see how this script is arranged. Anybody can pick it up and understand what to do and when to do it. So we have the time, we have duration. The time talks about the time allocated for each of the things. Have duration, how many minutes each of the segment is going to last. We have the segment telling you what to do at that particular time. Then host activity, what the host will be doing at a particular segment. Guest activity, what the guest will be doing at a particular segment. Then production note, what will be happening, why all of these activities are happening. This is usually for during the post-production. If it is a live recording that you're streaming it live, this is what will be happening as all of these activities in the segment will be going on. So let's take it. Now, we have the duration, we have the time here, we have the duration. And in this duration, under the segment, we have the opening theme. Of course, every TV program or every podcast is supposed to start with an opening theme. Should have an opening theme. So now, the opening theme is where you have the logo of the production or the TV station or whatever, and opening montage and all the rest. And the duration allocated here is 30 seconds, from 000 hour to 30 seconds. You understand? It's going to last for 30 seconds. And what we have under the segment is opening theme. Here, what is happening here is the intro music will play. The intro music will play. The guest does not have anything to do here. Okay, here we have the production note, the podcast intro music, and logo animation, just like you're seeing on this video now. This logo will play, the animation will play, or the flyer of the podcast is going to play, and then before the host start his or her introduction. Now after this has happened, then we will now enter to the show opening, and this is going to last from that 30 seconds to 2:30. You understand? This is the segment, 2:30. That's how long it is going to last. So then now we have from 30 to 0300. So this is going to last for 2:30. So if you calculate the time will fail us to start doing all of those calculations. But if you calculate the time, all of this time and duration here are supposed to tally with the time here. We have 60 minutes. So it is going to, everything has to end at this 60 minutes. So after the opening theme, we'll now enter the show opening. Here, the host activity, what the host will be doing is, the host will welcome listeners, introduce him or herself, introduce the day's topic, explain what listeners should expect, introduce the guest. After he or she has done that, then we'll move over to what the guest is going to do at this point. Now, after they have introduced that, the guest will now greet the audience briefly and all the rest. Now, the production note the faded background music under the host. There will be a background music that will be playing if at all you want the background music. Now, this script, if they pre-recorded it, during the post-production, the video editor in the post-production need to have the script too, so that he will know what to do in the production note, or know what the producer wants in the production note, under the production note. Now, after the opening show, now you will now move over to the first question. Now, the guest is looking at the time and what to do at that particular time. Now, why the host rather. Now, why the guest is saying whatever he's saying, the host is also looking at the time to know when the guest is supposed to round up, so that they can move to the next question or the next activity. Remember, we are working with 60 seconds, so he needs to check the time. Once the person, if the time allocated for the first question is 3:30, is going to last for 3:30. Once it is getting to 3:28, the host is supposed to be giving the guest signal to round up his or her explanation or response to the question, so that they can move over to the next question. So that's the essence of all of this time, so that you will not exceed the time. You know, if it is in a TV station where you pay for time, if you're exceeding your time, once you exceed that time, it simply means you're going to pay for extra time, because people have already paid for that time you're using. Or let's say they want to broadcast news, so once it is time for news, they are going to cut off that program. So you need to follow up the time. That's the essence of allocating this time. Now, once you ask the first question, you see things like, tell us about yourself and your journey. Now, all of these host activities, let me say, it is not advisable for the host to start cramming all of these host activities. All of these here are just like a guideline telling the host what to do at that particular segment. It is not advisable. Personally, every other person may accept it, but for me personally, it's not advisable for the host to cram all of this, start reading them word by word. You can look at it and know what to say and paraphrase your own word, because you may cram all of this, and once you get there on set and they start recording, you may forget something, and Nobody will give you that time. If it is a live recording, you're recording live, nobody will give you that time to start thinking of how to remember it. It's not a film production. So that's why it's important for you to use your own word. You can look at what is here, know what to do, and use your own word. Now, after the first question, the guest will share his background and all the rest depending on the question that was asked. You just respond. After that, you move over to the next question, the next question, the next question. Now, don't forget. That's why I say this script can work for both podcast and TV production, any TV show, maybe talk show or whatever. Now, with this, I had to put space for commercial. Now, why you do all of this as the first question, second question, there should be time for commercial. There should be time for commercial. If it is podcast, you may not bother to add commercial in your podcast. If there is need for it, you can add it. But majorly for TV talk shows, there should be time for commercials. Now, once you ask the last question, let's say the question 4, and the person has responded, if the person is taking time to respond to this your question 4, if the guest is taking time to respond to this your question 4, you should be giving the person signal, or you cut the person off constructively. Let's say the person is making a response, you can just say, okay, you can just respond to the guest and say, okay, because of our time, and before we go to our commercial, I will, or you can say something like, you have to do it constructively so that it will not look as if you just cut off your guest. Now, what you're going to say, you can say, I think the explanation is becoming so interesting. But then we'll come back to this. We'll have to revisit this when we come back from our commercial. You understand? So that, because you need to let the person know that time has gone. But then you don't just jump into commercial like that. There should be a commercial intro, introducing the people. Once you have constructively cut off the guest, then you can now go to your commercial intro. Things like, we will take a quick break, stay with us. We will be right back after the message from our sponsor or whatever you're doing. You understand? Then you go for the commercial and all the rest. So all of these things need to be indicated. Now, when you come back from that commercial or from that break, you can you are going to do the commercial will not play. There is time for the commercial. You understand? All of these have time. Then when you come back, there is time for commercial outro. You understand? You introduce the commercial before they went for the commercial. When you come back, you have to do another outro again. Something like, welcome back. If you are just joining us, you are listening to, you put the name of the podcast with our guest. You have to introduce the guest again, and then you continue. Do you understand? If you cut off the person, you can tell the person, okay, before we went for our commercial, you were saying something very interesting. Please, can you continue? Do you understand? The person will continue. But then, the reason you have to do this outro in your commercial is because somebody may be joining you after during that commercial. The person does not know what you're talking about. You understand? So the person needs to know the topic of discussion, the guest that is available, and what is happening. By that, the person can follow up what is happening. That's why it is important to do your outro. So after your outro, you can now continue with the next question, considering the time. Then at the end of the day, once you're done with your question, the host have to do a recap. You can decide to put it, or you end the show like that. But for me, I will always prefer, if I'm writing my script, I do put a space where the host will have to do a recap. Somebody might have joined that show at that point when you ask the last question. So you have to do a recap of what has been happening. That is, summarize. You have to summarize the biggest lessons from the conversation and highlight memorable quotes and all of those. Then the guest cannot add, in his own guest activity, cannot add final comments of if necessary. Then if he has any final comment. Now, after that, the host will have to do audience challenge, like, or call to action, telling them to subscribe to the channel, call and give them number to call, and all the rest. It is important these days that podcasts or TV programs are aired on social media. you need to give them the social media handle to follow and all the rest. So what the guest does here is to encourage the listeners to apply one lesson from today's episode, invite comments and questions for the next episode and all the rest. Then the guest can encourage the audience to participate. You understand? Then after that, the guest appreciation, the guests need to appreciate the audience, thanking everybody, host rather. We need to appreciate the audience and also give room. This is supposed to be the host. Sorry about that. This is supposed to be the host. Appreciation is going to appreciate the listeners for listening and following the work, and the guests will also appreciate them and share contacts and information and all the rest. Then we have the final one, which is the show closing and outro. What happened here is that the host will have to thank the listeners for tuning in and announcing next time the episode is going to happen, and remind them to subscribe, follow, like, comment and share at the end of the signature thing and all the rest. Then the guest can say goodbye and all the rest. Then you're going to have the closing music fades and play until the end. All of this is going to happen using the time that was allocated. You understand? You can see that everything, if you calculate this time very well, you will discover that all of this thing ended at 60 minutes. So this is just how to arrange your script for TV programs, or majorly your TV programs. You understand? You can also arrange it this way for radio programs. In radio programs, you can recite everything that is there because you are not seeing anything. But in TV, it is audio visual. So they are saying it is not necessary for you to cram all the words. It's just for you to follow what is there. So this is just an example of how you write your script for TV programs. You can follow this pattern. You can decide to put yours in a tabular form for better explanation. You can decide to leave it blank that way, but I think it is better you leave it in the tabular form so that whoever is going to see the script will know which is which, and can differentiate between time and duration, differentiate between segments and host activities, and differentiate between guest activity and production notes. I think with this will help you to be able to write your TV script properly and very well. If you enjoyed this video and you like the video and you want us to continue, of course, in our next episode we are going to be bringing another script template for film and other production. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that when we drop the next episode you can get notified. You can also drop your comments and what you feel. You can also share to your friends who may need this. And also, if you need the script, you can just comment your phone number or let us know I need the script. Just comment I need the script, and we'll give you a WhatsApp number you can contact, and this particular script will be sent to you directly. Thank you for watching, and welcome to, if you're joining us for the first time, welcome to Film Motive. See you in the next episode, and bye.